Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Today we're looking at the Looker. Well, I mean, at least you are, because I'm looking at you right through your screen. Wait, I mean, the Looker, the game. That's what we're looking at today. And I know we're off to a good start when I turned subtitles on, and it subs the jump sound effect. Oh, thank God, I had no clue he was jumping when I hit the jump button till I read the subtitles. The Looker is a puzzle game that's meant to make you rage, but I have to be honest, it really wasn't that bad. I mean, sure, some of the puzzles took me a little bit to figure out, but not to brag or anything, but I'm stupid. So if I can figure it out, I think most everybody else can. The thing that does make me want to rage in the game is how slow things move. These boxes are so goddamn annoying. All you do is draw a red line from start to end over and over. It opens up new rooms for you to draw more lines in till you get to the last puzzle. Wait, is that a...
Wait, it's a giant cat.
I mean, it's a free-to-play game. Nobody forced me to play it. The only one I have to be mad at right now is myself. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, and hang on, this doesn't feel right. Welcome to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Rampage Miami is a mission-based shooter game with a great retrowave style. It also has an amazing synthwave soundtrack, and how can I not like this? Violence, great tunes, I get to fly jets. There's 30 missions to complete, but my issue with this game is if you start straying from where you're supposed to go, everything just feels so barren. However, this game makes up for it with all the guns, cars, jets, and even tanks they give you to play with. I have no clue what the story is in this game, and honestly, I don't need to know. Just point me in the direction of the bad guy, and I'll take care of it. I did fall off the roof when I was facing down the final boss. However, I just took this opportunity to find a bit more firepower. Sure, this might be overkill, but I just call it a show of power. Sure, the game isn't perfect, but I had so much fun with this stupid game. Welcome to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Loi Hotel is a hand-drawn, wholesome little game about getting spirits to live on a giant floating turtle with you. You have to unlock room for more spirits to stay by using gems. You get these by collecting the ones that are lying around or periodically getting them from the animals that stay with you. There's also 3 cat musicians to find that play music for everybody. You can also find more songs for them to play that are hidden in the levels. Most of the game is just flying around to different islands to collect spirits and gems, so that way you can make room for more spirits. Everything in this game is just so chill, and the music is fantastic. The only downside is there's mushrooms you have to avoid in different levels. If they hit you, they'll take gems from you, but they're so annoying to dodge. I found myself just running into all the mushrooms just so I could get rid of them. It's not the worst thing ever, it just kind of brought the chill mood of the game down for me a bit. Overall though, this game is such a pleasant experience with some really great tunes. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Today, we're looking at Inertia. It's a first-person platformer game that came out back in 2017, so I want to cut it some slack, but who thought it was a good idea to have the camera wobble nonstop like this? The game just kind of makes me motion sick. Not to mention the fact the game's floaty as hell, so it's impossible to tell where you're gonna land. It took me forever to get past just the first level. I did get the hang of it eventually, but everything's just kind of boring and plain to look at. And then the game tells you to go fuck yourself when you have to run on the wall. I guess they couldn't be bothered to make sure the game was functioning correctly. But don't worry, the game only came out 6 years ago, so I'm sure they have plans to fix it, but just haven't gotten around to it yet. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Giant Bear Rampage basically explains the whole game in the title. You're a bear who thinks that Cheap Coast pollution got exposed to some toxic waste, and now you're on a rampage. You run around and destroy everything in sight, while the helpless people can do nothing but cower. Sure, the cops might try and stop you, but they're no match for your laser vision. Along with the laser vision, you can unlock points to collect different abilities, like a flamethrower, the ability to make people expand and explode, or plasma bombs. However, there are some flaws with the game. Unfortunately, the difficulty ramps up a bit too much in my opinion, especially when you run out of energy so fast and can't use your attacks, but get bombarded by enemies. So you either just have to run in, use melee attacks as fast as you can and hope for the best, or just hang back and wait till you recharge. This just makes the game really slow paced with this weird waiting game to attack. However, you can make it look like your bear's clapping, so 10 out of 10. Welcome to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Postvoid is an insane mind-tripping game. Your goal is to make it to the end of each level, but you have an idol that you're carrying with you that's slowly draining out, and if it empties out before you find the end of the level, the game is over. It also drains a bit faster when you get shot, but when you kill an enemy, it fills it back up a bit. The game is constantly making you choose if it's worth trying to fight so that way you can fill up your idol a bit more, but risking losing more than you gain, or just running by enemies. At the end of each stage, you're given the choice between different buffs or weapons to choose from. All of them are a blast to play with, and you're also given a dash ability so that way you can try and dodge by enemies. The game feels so good when you're on a roll, but can easily overstimulate you. I had so much fun with this game, but when I stopped playing it, I definitely had a headache for a bit. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Animal Memory Monkey is a simple memory matching game. You have a set amount of time to memorize where all the monkeys are, and then you have to find them. You're able to make up to 3 mistakes, but if you make a 4th, the round starts all over. It's a very simplistic game full of monkeys, but this one has to be my favorite. He just looks so derpy and exhausted, I love him. Most of the reviews for this game are great, except Dr. Man said this is an under-the-radar FBI torture method, and I'm prone to believe a doctor on this matter. I, however, got all the achievements for this game, so I guess that means I'm resilient to torture, or I'm just an idiot. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Lawbringer is an arena fighting roguelite where you take on hordes of enemies. Your goal is to appease the autarch by killing more and more enemies. You have a melee attack that can do either strong or light damage, as well as a gun for distance attacks. There are a lot of mechanics in this game with the ability to dash, parry shots, block attacks, as well as some perks to buy along the way. There's a lot of different ones to buy, ranging from increasing your health and stamina to stronger melee attacks, even increasing the distance you can dash. If you make it to the stage that you previously died on, you're also able to pick up some of the perks you dropped. The one downside to this game is it will stop you mid-combat to give you new skills to buy. I'd be right in the middle of a fight only for it to pause, making me decide what to buy, then throwing me right back into the heat of combat, normally taking damage. I just feel like being able to purchase the skills at the end of each round would help the pacing a lot more. The game overall is a fun time and definitely something you could spend hours perfecting. There's even a difficulty where if you run out of favor with the autarch, you die. This one was a bit too challenging for me personally, but for such a cheap game, you can tell a whole lot of love and passion went into it. Welcome to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Pallet Swap is an action platformer that harkens back to the original Game Boy. You play as Fern the alligator, who can swap the color palette of the world. Each color gives you different abilities. Green lets you bounce off the walls, and blue lets you change parts of the ground to water. Your goal is to collect cogs that are hidden behind all these fun obstacles, as well as these different robots to help you fix the portals. The game is a lot of fun and makes you react really fast to everything going on around you. It is still in early access though, so it does feel a little bit unfinished. Like for instance, the game just kind of ends. But there's still a lot to do in this game with multiple cogs to collect and even some time trials to complete. I'm sure by the time the game's finished, a lot more creative fun will be added to it and hopefully even some more colors to swap between. If you're a fan of the original Game Boy, this is the perfect game for you. And with all that said, see you later, alligator. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Today we're looking at Mangaia. It's an action platformer with a really nice pixel art aesthetic. There's 20 different levels to play through with 2 bosses to fight. On each stage you have to collect the lost souls before you can move on to the next, but the stages are laid out very randomly, and there's a lot of leaps of faith you have to make, with most of them killing you. You're able to unlock abilities with gems you collect. They're your standard upgrades like a bow, a double jump, and a dash, but all of them are required to beat the game, and this is where the game fails the most, I think. The game is called Mangaia, but it's definitely not a Metroidvania. I'm not sure why they acted like it is one. The power-ups should have been found as you progress with some light backtracking, but instead they just make it a level-based game. It just seems like an odd choice to make. Overall, it's not the worst game I've played, but the game is glitchy, the boss fights are bland, and the levels are just not that interesting. Overall, there's just not much I can recommend this game for. Also, I'm just upset it's not a Metroidvania. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. AlkaStaka is one of the most wholesome games I've played in a long time. You play as Paz, who goes to visit their friend, but thanks to a jealous squirrel, all her chicks are let out, so now you have to find them all. There's just one small island to explore, and the chicks are fairly easy to find, but everything here is just so charming. The soundtrack is peaceful and relaxing and really helps you settle into a fun, cozy experience. The game is free and definitely worth checking out, but the only downside is I beat the game in 10 minutes, so it's a very short experience. But if you're looking for a short, chill game, I highly recommend AlkaStaka. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Unmanned Helicopter has some of the worst controls I have ever experienced in a game. You use WASD to control the tilt of the helicopter and the arrow keys to control the power to the rotator, but if you want to turn the camera, you have to use the mouse. So grow a third arm, I guess, if you want full control. But even with that, the game still has a mind of its own and just kind of moves you where it wants. You'll just go through rings and it won't count it, move across the ground after you've already landed, and it's just all so infuriating. I got this game in a bundle of 10 games for $3, and I still think I overpaid for this. So if you want to mentally harm yourself, I guess give this game a try. Welcome back to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Today we're looking at a game that's free, but honestly could have cost $5 and I'd still be happy with it. Postmouse is a charming little game about a mouse who's asked to deliver letters after Carl the carrier pigeon went missing. You start off exploring this wholesome little town while doing some platforming and delivering letters to some wonderful animals. You then move on to exploring a house that has a nice eerie vibe to it and even a little lore hidden around. Everything's just very chill and calm until you meet a horrifying cat and what remains of Carl, and then it's time to run for your life. Altogether, the game's about an hour and a half to play through, but that's way longer than I was expecting for a free game. The game sometimes had a bit too much going on visually. There's a lot of plants and grass filling up the screen, but it's probably just a me issue. Overall though, this game is definitely worth playing, and rest in peace, Carl. Welcome to Short Cheap Reviews, where I find a game for under $5 and review it in under a minute. Frogot is a wholesome little game about helping a wizard who changed into a frog turn back. You do this by gathering simple items from around your house, like a cake, your TV, some pears, and even your little kiwi friend, all while the intoxicating smell of potions fill your home. You can get a bit rebellious and put other things in the potion that the frog didn't ask for, but this makes the game a bit buggy. The game is free to play and definitely worth checking out. I don't want to give too much away about the ending of the game, but I highly recommend checking this game out for yourself.